Welcome to Coming Clean with Indy Lee, a podcast series about living with passion, acting with purpose, and being fully present. I'm your host, Indy Lee. Hey guys, it's Indy. I am so excited for today's guest. I'll tell you that I left the recording so emotional, so full of light, and I cannot wait for you guys to take a listen. Today's guest is none other than Alex Elle. Alex is an author, a wellness consultant, mother, wife, powerful soul being. I cannot wait for you to take a listen. Oh, and by the way, she also has this incredible podcast, Hey Girl. So take a listen. Today, I am so excited. I've already pre-introduced, but I actually can't believe this is happening, that I'm sitting down on FaceTime with Alex Elle. I have been a fan of hers for so long, and she has really helped me reintroduce my journaling practice. She doesn't even know this because we didn't even pre-talk about it. But Alex, what you don't know is I'm someone who used to journal like a while ago, and I read the book The Artist's Way and did the morning journaling and all that, which I found to be very difficult for me. Like, that was painful.
Morning pages are painful, but they are necessary, but they are painful. That is for sure.
But you have taught me the importance of using like verbal prompts, like guided journaling. So, but I mean, you are so much more than someone who's an author. You're a podcast host. You're a visionary. You are really leading the conversation, I feel, in so many ways about learning about what your truths are and doing the work. And so thank you so much for being on my little humble podcast today.
You are so welcome. Thank you for having me. And I told you this before. I've been a fan and customer of your skincare for years. So it's an honor to be sitting down and talking. I'm so excited.
See, good things happen.
It is happening.
Karma.
Let's dive in. It is happening.
Yeah.
Good karma, good vibration.
I love it. So I thought something, maybe not everybody in terms of my listeners knows as much as the homework that I've done or have been doing as someone who's been using your books, etc. But tell us, my listeners, a little bit about yourself and how you got into this space, because I know it's been a journey.
It has been a journey. So my name is Alex Elle. I'm an author, mother, wife, and I would say 7-8 years ago, I started writing books, and writing came into my life by way of therapy. So it was definitely something that was an outlet for me as a young kid. I was pretty sad growing up. I struggled with depression and anxiety and some suicidal ideation. So going to therapy was really the only way that I could bridge the gap between finding my voice and learning my truth. And my therapist, who I just adored so much, gave me my journal in the emotional toolbox, is what she called it. And it saved my life. And now I am here. So that's a little bit about me. And also, of course, I encourage other people and really take pride in leading folks to their voice through writing practice. So to hear you say that you've used my journals and you've read my books and all of that really amazing, supportive stuff, it truly is transformative every time I hear it, because we're never alone in our struggles. And to be able to put it down on the page and then have this moment of connection, just through writing and truth telling and story sharing, it really just changes my life, and it reminds me of why I do the work that I do.
I think at every time, but right now in society, with what everybody's going through with the pandemic, and which there's just so much fear, and anxiety, financially, emotionally, health, all of those things. And people just don't know where their next paychecks are going to come from. And just basic needs, people are concerned about being met. And then to hit a point where finally we're having the conversation that is over 400 years due about Black lives mattering and having a voice and amplifying inequality. I think now more than ever, people need to talk and do the inner work.
Agreed.
you are certainly somebody who's, I think, helping so many people get there and not be afraid. And what I love about you is your honesty and your openness, and you're willing to be vulnerable on so many subjects. Because I think so many people there's still a stigma about mental health.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important to be having these conversations. Tomorrow I turn 31, so I've been having like a very tender month, really. I think my birthday month is always super tender, but this week especially, I've been trying to find ways in my writing practice to show up in self-celebration and like find these moments of pause to really celebrate the things that I have not just accomplished, but deserve to like take note of. And I sent out a newsletter to my audience asking them to do the same thing and to find the many moments of celebration, especially during this time of social justice and COVID and like being alone and also trying to show up. And especially for my Black and brown folks, like being in our bodies and learning how to come back home to ourselves after being, you know, just really triggered and traumatized on so many different levels. And I think celebration is also an act of resilience and revolution, especially of the self. So, you know, so many people are going through collective grief right now. And I think it's just as important for people to lean into the possibility of collective healing and that inner work that requires us to like really show up and be our fullest and true self in the work that we do and in our communities.
Well, you know what I do for a living, so you know that's something that's very important to me. But I think what I love about what you're doing is it's different. It is, I hate, you know, the term is getting so overplayed, self-care.
I try not to use it anymore.
I know. I'm like, is it self-nurturing? You know, I'm a self-care company, but it's not just about what you're putting, the goop you're putting on your body, in your body. It's in your mind, in your soul, energetically. And as a result, it gets washed.
Yeah. And also, too, you know, because I feel you on the whole self-care is like really trendy type of thing. I think a lot of people know my work because I started talking about self-care before it was really, you know, commercialized and stuff. And for my own personal practice, not necessarily telling other people you should be taking care of yourself, but just like me as a Black woman, as a mother, as a wife, like I have to take care of me too. And what I've been like really leaning into these days is self-care as community care, specifically as a woman. So in order to take care of my community, I have to take care of myself.
You can't pour from an empty cup.
Exactly. And in order to be my best, most intentional self, I have to take space to do that so that I can be in my community, so that I can be in parenthood, so that I can be in my marriage in a way that is productive for everyone involved and for everyone I love and who loves me. So it's really self-care as community care. And then if you look at it on a further lens, like for folks who are out protesting and being on the front lines at hospitals and things, like them taking care of themselves is how they're able, even if it's little 5-minute, 1-minute deep breaths, recentering, getting back into their body type of thing. If they're not taking care of themselves, it is going to be very hard for them to show up for the community. And I've talked to frontline workers, nurses, doctors. I've talked to people showing up at the protest. I remind them, don't forget to hydrate. Don't forget to eat. Don't forget to take some deep breaths and really, me too. I got my water here. and really get back into your body, because in this world with everything that's going on, we can be so removed from the body. Like the soul can literally be removed from the body. So it's like remembering that you're human, remembering that you are worthy of your breath, remembering that you are a home to yourself is so, so important. So I'm looking at self-care as community care these days, especially with the work that I'm doing with teaching and facilitating other folks.
I think it's so important. I always say, I can't be a good mom, wife, CEO, et cetera, if I don't take 20 minutes for myself. And that's why meditation has been such an important part of my daily practice for so long, and the concept of getting present. And I've been a practicing Buddhist for over 20 years. So that portion of my life is so important, because I can't do for others if I don't do it for myself. But what I find is I'm the first person that I sacrifice in order to go into community for others. Well, I have to do this. I have to do this for that person. And it could be, oftentimes it's interesting at thinking about this, it's a way for me to procrastinate to do my own work.
Yeah.
Because there's something blocking, right?
Yeah.
But the first thing to go is usually self.
Yep. Yep. And I love how you said getting present versus being present, because I think what struck me about that is sometimes we have to get back to being present. We can't always be present. We're not always present, you know? Yeah. So I love that getting present.
I am not
present.
like the Buddha. That. I cannot stay in that state.
Right.
I mean, I
wish we could.
Yeah, I would have no work to do if I did myself. But that's just it. And I think people think that you can just go like that, snap your fingers, and you're present. And it is just like meditation, journaling. It is a practice, which means it is a muscle that needs to be continually worked on. And for me, there's no end point. There isn't like, okay, I got there and I'm done. I have to continually do it and work on it. And it's hard. It's really hard. And I think right now, like you're saying with community, I want to be there for so many, help my kids get through this portion of their life, which is, homeschooling for a third grader. That was interesting. That was worse than my college kid. He got this. My 17-year-old, fine. But the third grader, but it's tough to be there for a community right now, especially when we're not allowed to actually commune. Which is why I think right now so many people are leaning into this concept of how do I take care of myself? I think that's very new for people. They say, I do self-care, which means I take a nice long bath with, candles, and it's this indulgent moment.
Right.
Instead of this.
Self-care should be this daily practice.
Intentional. It's got to be an intentional
daily practice. Yeah. That creates a ritual in our lives. So I always say practice creates ritual. So it's like that is the goal with anything that we do, is creating a ritual through the things that we practice. And it can be really hard. It's not this like woo-woo whimsical thing. It is hard as heck. It requires us to really lean in and get our stuff together. And it requires a lot of self-awareness too, to say, hey, I'm really slipping right now. How do I get back on the ball? How do I get back to myself? And that is a part of the process. It's not this easy, woo-woo, super zen thing. I mean, people think I'm like very zen, walking around burning my herbs and just in caftans all day. And I'm like, sometimes most of the time, mama is in here losing her mind. And I have to get back to being present. So, just humanizing the self-care language too. Like it's not expensive. It doesn't have to be expensive. It can be accessible. I mean, writing is self-care for me, and washing my face is self-care for me. Like having a moment of just like really allowing my husband to take over with the kids and give me my 20 minutes in the bathroom in the mornings, and allowing folks to help us and naming what we need too is really, really major. So, I mean, I could talk on and on about that, but
that's a big one. People think that it's I always say, people ask me what I think my superpower is, or like what if I had a superpower, and I said, I think the one for me that I'm not afraid to ask for help. And that is not a sign of weakness. That is I truly believe that is a strength that you need to lean into and realize people want to feel worthy too. And by asking for help, you're bringing them into your community. You're in relationship with them, which provides a value for them as well.
Yeah.
And at the same time, you're saying, I can't do it alone. I don't want to do it alone.
I don't want to do it alone. especially for the quote unquote, like strong ones out there listening, like, I got it, I can do it, I don't need help, or better yet, I don't want help. Mm-hmm. It's like, but it's okay to want help, and it's okay to need help. And especially as women, it's okay to ask for help, and that doesn't make us weak. It doesn't make us unable to do X, Y, or Z. It really is, as you mentioned, an act of resilience and an act of strength and boundary setting for ourselves. Like, we can't do it all the time, all day, or we will be empty. And that goes back to what we were just talking about. So yeah, I'm right there with you.
Have you found that you, especially during this time, right, you're saying no more? Oh,
yeah. Yeah. Yeah,
That's a big one for me.
If it wasn't you, I would have said no to this.
Oh my God, I'm so happy. Oh my gosh. Okay. Note to everybody listening, I just fell on the floor. I told Alex, I don't really get nervous. Everybody knows I'm fine doing these things, but I was actually nervous today. I'm like, okay, I got to get dressed for this. What am I going to wear? And I'm on FaceTime. So it's.
No, but truly, I have been saying no more because, it feels like I'm the queen of overextending. Mm-hmm. I'm learning how to say no and be okay and say no and mean it, and also same for yes, say yes and mean it, because I have a big issue with saying yes. And I'm also trying to do better at saying yes more too, as well as, saying no, just being honest in my answers. Right. So I'm also notorious for saying yes when I don't want to do something. And I have learned that serves no one. And it especially doesn't, make my presence intentional when I show up in a space that I don't want to be in. So like just learning, to be honest in my saying of yes and in my saying of no too.
It's hard because you don't want to be difficult or seen as difficult. And yet, it's not being difficult. It's honoring yourself so that when you do say yes, you can show up the way you want to show up.
Yep. Right. Mm-hmm.
And that's been a transformation for me. And it's something that I'll be quite honest, I'm still struggling with.
Me too. I'm getting better, but it's still like this inner struggle of, should I say yes to this? So let me give you an example that happened yesterday.
Perfect.
So, I'm in talks with this company about a partnership, and they are amazing, and we've worked together so many times, and they're really, great advocates of my work and the work that I'm doing in the world. And this specific partnership is proving to be a little bit difficult. And I was telling my husband, I need to just tell them, here's what I have, and then if it's not okay with them, which is fine, that I'm going to have to, politely decline because I just can't rewrite the thing. I can't reshoot the thing. And I don't want to, and I don't have the time to. And I had that conversation with them yesterday, and I was very scared to do that because I didn't want them to, cancel me or think I was being difficult or what have you. And I said, just, here's my truth, and let's talk it out. And if we can work it out, amazing. If we can't, it's no hard feelings. Just know that maybe next time will be a better opportunity. And it was so wonderful to hear their feedback. And they respected me. They respected my stance. They respected my choice. And if we need to part ways, we will, and it'll be fine. And they'll think of me for the next thing. And I was very scared that wouldn't happen. So, just giving that opportunity for me to say, I know I said yes to this thing, and now this thing I wanted to do it, but now it's feeling a little bit off for me. Mm-hmm. And here's why. And just being honest that I might have to say no in the end was a big milestone. And that's something that I'm celebrating this week, is like being honest in the fact that things change, and that's okay if things change. And if people are on the same, energetic wavelength with like the self-awareness, the self-respect, and just the respect in general for people's, choices, things can go a lot smoother and be, well received, even if there is disappointment. So making room for that is something that happened this week.
Congratulations. That's
Thank
amazing. I literally wrote down the note of the time you said it. I'm like, okay, I got to revisit this because I do it. I don't do it as much. Yes, I do. Who am I kidding? My team's like, yeah, you do. Like, oh, sure, I can do that event. No problem. And I had it where a retailer said, hey, can you do 4 events in a day? And
wow,
that's a lot of on time, you know, and it's like one of them was like, it was 2 hours and 2 hours, but it was 4 separate events. And I said, no, I can't. And they're like, well, I can't. I'm not going to be the best person. Like, you're not going to get all of me. I can't. How is that possible?
yeah,
And I felt like I would let down the retailer and whatnot. But you know what? What I realized was I'm going to be the best person for that retailer if I do that.
Yeah, yep. At the end, yeah.
But
at the end of it,
it's hard. It's hard. And it's not for me FOMO, because I'm okay with that, but it's more like, am I letting other people down?
Put down.
It's my guilt about other people. And again, that's something that is perfect for a journal. Because when you write that out, you realize it really isn't. It's really about you. What journaling has taught me is that it's always about me and this internal conversation.
Yeah. And figuring it out. And what you'll be excited to hear is, so my new book, After the Rain, comes out in October.
Oh, I pre-ordered. Don't you worry.
Thank you.
Of course.
And in January, the companion journal is coming out, and it is stunning, and it's a new, work of art. I mean, just to have it on the table is beautiful. Chronicle did an amazing job, but you'll have some new reflective time coming your way.
I can't wait. So before, I want to talk about After the Rain and a little bit on the, how as an author and everything. But it's interesting with you being a mom, an author, a host, a creator, a coach for many. How do you find, like, as you're saying, people change, right? How do you find time? And what do you do? And I think a lot of listeners will understand this, to identify who Alex is. Like, because you're constantly changing. As your children get older, you're different to them. How do you handle that? Because that's a struggle for me, is who am I?
That's such a good question. I've been toying with this week as well, just because of the birthday coming up tomorrow and everything. And it's like, today I kind of feel in limbo and like giving myself the space to not really know who I am to me right now. And something that I'm doing more in my personal practice of taking care and self-reflection is greeting the gray areas of my life with a sense of curiosity instead of being scared by it. Because this time last year, I would have been scared out of my mind to like feel like I didn't have an identity outside of career, motherhood, and parenthood. Right now, especially in quarantine right now, with a 10-month-old and a 2.5-year-old and a 12-year-old, and they all are in very different stages of their human experience.
Yes.
And then still like having to make time for my husband and him having to make time for me. I mean, he's a very hands-on father. I work from home during the day, and sometimes we just miss each other. Like, we'll have a moment of like, I love you, I see you. And then it's like, I'm in bed and he's downstairs at the end of the night having his time. You know what I mean? And it's just like, how do we find like reconnection as individuals, right?
Yes.
And right now I'm just greeting that with curiosity. I've been pouring a lot of time into work. I have a very demanding schedule right now and deadlines to meet, etc. And it's just like, maybe sometimes this is a part of it. Maybe there is grace to be had in the unknown and
that.
in the shift. Like, maybe I'm in a peak bloom right now, and my rest and new identity will form when the wilt happens. So I'm just figuring things out. And just giving myself permission to like not know what the hell like is going on. I think hell is going on.
Yeah, and this is certainly a time, because that's just it. Like I struggle. Like, who am I now? And I think of, okay, if there wasn't an Indie Lee, or what happens when you have investors? who am I after that? Like, what is my identity? And it's not tied to a label on a product. There's so much more to me, which is why I'm loving doing the podcasts and trying to do more on the Mindful Mondays and whatnot. It's all part of that. You know, how do you continue to identify yourself? Like literally find it.
Yes, like find it. And I think that's it. Like, I think there's something to be said about having to go look for it, because that, to me, to your point, is getting back to present.
Yes.
You know what I mean? It's like getting back there. And I've had many moments in my life where I'm like, I don't know who I am.
Okay, it's not just me then. Okay, okay, everybody, hear this. Alex Elle says that, so it's okay that we.
Like, I don't know who, and you know, I have a complicated, you know, relationship with myself sometimes because of that. It's like, okay, do I need to know who I am all the time to be who I am? And it's like,
yes, that's it.
Know?
Like if I say, okay, I am a leader within, you know, which is always a weird thing for me to say, okay, I'm an authority or a leader, because then I'm like, oh, wait, you know, that sounds like humble bragging.
And then you cower and hide.
Right, right.
Yeah.
But I want to show up as someone who's a thought leader, that show up as somebody who wants to talk about and question and help people lean into their fear and the vulnerability and all those things. But if I don't know who I am, or I'm not, like, how can I do that? Like, you can't teach what you don't know. And so it's an interesting time, but I love that it's okay to not know. You don't have to have it all figured out.
Right, ever. And I think that's what makes us students of life. And that's what makes us experts of ourselves, is that we are constantly learning and shifting and evolving. And because of that, there is a lesson there. There is something to be really learned and acknowledged. And, you know, it's a flow. It's just a flow. And that's something I have a friend who just says, Alex, just go with the flow. Like, you know who you are at your core. And right now, if it feels like you're a little bit detached from that, then just get curious about it and just flow with it. And that's what I've been doing, especially as I'm a control freak. So I like to know like what I'm doing, where I'm going, you know, and being in that ambiguous stage can be kind of terrifying, but there's the lesson.
Yep. Yeah. No, I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
So, okay. So you have a new book coming out.
Yeah, I do.
Which we just said, can you share a little bit about it? And I do want to talk about okay, because I want everybody to buy it.
Yes. So my new book, After the Rain, is a collection of essays that read like encapsulated memoirs and meditations and affirmations. So the longer pieces are broken up with these shorter, digestible reflections and takeaways for the readers. And I am so very proud of this book. I am so very ready for October to get here so the world can have After the Rain in their hands. And it really gives people an inside look on who I am and where I've come from. I started my story, you know, I was a teen mom.
Yeah.
I was 18 when I had Charlie. And I had to make some really radical decisions to become the woman I am today. I also, you know, worked a 9-to-5 for a very long time, up until 8 years ago. So, you know, me being in the work that I'm in and the growth that I've had is fairly new still. And I talk about it all. I talk about being an employee. I talk about my relationship with my mom, which has come a long way, but it's still very tender. I talk about my pathway to finding myself and my spiritual practice and finding my husband, the love of my life, and our journey through, you know, having kids together, which was a challenge at one point. And it's just a collection of my soul. And I think that a lot of people will get a little something from each essay. And I'm just really, really, really excited for people to get to know me on a deeper level and get to know my heart's work on a deeper level.
Were you nervous to be that vulnerable in a okay, well, here it is? Like you're basically
Yeah.
saying, here's my naked self.
Yeah, a little, especially around my relationship with my mom, because there was a lot of verbal and physical abuse happening when I was younger. And I talk about that in the book, but I wanted to make sure that I was greeting my mom, who she was then and who she is now, from a lens of compassion and seeing her as a woman and not just as a mother, seeing her as an individual with their own struggles and challenges and not just as my mother. So I was really scared I didn't write this book for a long time. Excuse me. I didn't write this book for a long time because I was scared of, that aspect. Because our story, I think it's important, to know, and to say our stories aren't just our stories.
No.
Everyone is intertwined in our story, right? So I was a little nervous about that, but me and my mom had a long talk and conversation about everything, and I gave her the book. She got the very first advance copy, and I bookmarked the pages that were in reference to her. I read her a chapter, and we had a 2-hour conversation, woman to woman, about what we walked through, and it was transformative. And I think that this book is going to be transformative for a lot of people, because each lesson in the book, yes, it is something that has happened to me or that I've walked through, but in the same breath, I wrap up each chapter with something that I've learned and the love that we can still hold on to even through adverse moments and pain, no matter what our past look like.
I cannot wait to read that. But I remember it must have been an interview that I had read that you had done or something, but you said for you and part of the healing that you had was breaking a cycle of as a mom and really coming into how you want it to be for you and for Charlie and for your kids going forward. So this must have been a revisiting of that. But also for you, I would imagine a celebration to some extent, which is a very double-edged sword because you went through so much pain and have been clearly, from what you're saying, working so hard with your mother and rebuilding and identifying, but then opening that up again.
It was tender. Yeah, it was, and it still is tender. But I have to say, I'm just really proud of myself for being the mother that I am, for being the Black mother that I am, and for beating the societal odds. I mean, I was Black, unwed, had a baby at 18, and I had to figure it out. And I was either gonna figure it out, or I was gonna be stuck in the same cycle. And I was committed to figuring it out, so I could give me and Charlie the life that I wanted to give her. And, my parents, I think Charlie was the bridge to us starting some sort of transformation. I mean, Charlie will be 13 in November, so it's been a long time coming. But I remember my mom saying, I was 21 when she said this, and she said that Charlie felt like the glue, and that that Charlie was her do-over. And when she first said that, I was very taken aback. I wasn't offended, but I was very taken aback. But we talked about this recently, actually, and I understand what she was saying. She really messed up with me, and she didn't want to mess up with her grandchild. And my mom is the best grandmother to these girls ever. They love their Mimi, and I see what she means by having a second chance to do right by a child.
Which is such a beautiful thing that you are giving to her and allowing her to do that. Because not every person is going to be big enough to then say, I forgive, or I'm going to let that go so we can be in community and have a relationship moving forward together. And you did that for her, for you, for your daughter, for your daughters. That's incredible. And I think hearing you say this and trying not to get emotional about it, I think it's going to be a gift for a lot of other people who have gone through this, both in the eyes of who they see themselves as you, but also those mothers out there who might have had that experience and realize there's a way to go back and find a relationship that they didn't think that was possible again.
Yeah, I think so. I hope so.
I hope so too, because I think there's a lot of wounds out there, and I think you're going to be this incredible resource for people to start healing. So
I hope so.
So thank you for what you're doing for others on that. It's so hard to delve into some of the business stuff, but so I don't even know that I want to, because I think this is just such a beautiful thing. But I do want to talk. I mean, listen, you're a Black, powerful woman. Like you're not afraid to stand in your power and saying, this is what I'm overcoming. And I had to do the work on myself and not allow other people to stop me or any of those things. Like, I'm strong. I am going to do what I want. Like you just said, I am going to change this. I am going to be the mother, the individual that I want my daughter to see out in the world.
Yeah.
And I think that talks into the representation that right now we're in that place where finally we're seeing a conversation being had. We're not there with representation yet. We're not even
getting there. Trying to get there.
But at least some people are acknowledging that we, instead of like,
maybe that's the word. Yeah.
There's the acknowledgement that it's been missing.
Yeah.
And I think not only is it in the journalism. So, I mean, I don't know what you might have faced in getting a book like this put out into the world.
I was really lucky. I had no issues.
That's incredible, because I know not everybody feels that that's the case, but also the representation in terms of mental health. Like, that's something that's very important to you in the marginalized community, is having the conversation about mental health.
And it's interesting because when I first started writing books, going on 8 years ago now, I was self-published the first two. So I did it myself. And that was a really empowering thing for me, because I went to school for English and PR, and I had no idea what I wanted to do. And then I ended up in journalism, and then I ended up dropping out. So to be able to, I had people be like, you're going to do what? You're going to write books? You're a college dropout, young mom, you're not going to be anything. I remember people telling me that. I remember people saying I would never find a man to love me because I have a kid. I've been literally, people have tried to stop what I've made for myself out of their own personal fears and rejections. But it was really hard, to tackle that. But I made a name and a way for myself by deciding to do the thing anyway. And then I got picked up by a traditional publisher for 2 projects. And that was okay, but I knew that I could do more. And then I got agented, which changed the game. And now I'm with Chronicle. Of course, it's all a fast forward track. And I was paid very well what I was worth for my 2 book deals.
By the way, anybody listening, that is very important. Know your worth. Very important, especially being a Black woman. Very, very, very important. And I am extremely proud of myself for not letting what other people said I couldn't do impact what I did do. And mental health has always played a role in my life, and in my life's work, rather, because I was such a devastatingly sad kid. And when my daughter was born, when Charlie was born, I knew that I had to get my mind right so that I could love her the way that I wanted to love her, and love myself the way that I wanted to love her, Yes.
And so I just figured out, I mean, I have the language now as, you know, a 31-year-old woman. I have the language now to say I did my work, you know, to get to where I am. But I had to figure out how to do that. And there are so many people trying to figure out how to do their work. And I think that just starts with acknowledging that work has to be done. And then you peel back your layers and figure out, okay, how can I get support in doing this? Do I need a therapist? Do I need, like, what do I need? Who can I lean on? Do I need a mentor? You know, just all these different things. And I've been doing a lot of inner child work and like really nurturing young Alex, and in my journal, and just trying to like envision me like cradling her and loving her and being the mentor for her that I wish she had. You know, I'm the first to say, like, because I was so depressed and anxious and also looking for love outside of myself, I ended up pregnant at 18 because I was looking for love outside of myself.
Yep.
And it was like, you know, a big awakening for me to be thrusted into motherhood the way I was and decide to be the best mother that I could be. I mean, I remember my mom, I was breastfeeding at 18. I was baby wearing at 18. And I remember my mom saying, "Who taught you this stuff?" And I just said, I don't know. This is just what I want to do. And like that being a moment where it's like, no one taught me what I know.
You are incredible. I just need you to know that.
Thank you. Thank you. I have worked hard to be the woman I am and the person I am. And I just, you know, want to give other people hope, be it whether they were teen moms or not, whether they're, you know, Black women or not. I just want to give people, you know, the hope that whatever they're going through doesn't have to be where they stay.
Yeah, no. And they say, like, the grace is in the work.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to do the work. And I think that's really important for people to hear. This wasn't something that easily came. There wasn't a gift. You didn't close your eyes and then it happened. It was you created it and did the hard work to get there internally and externally. And
my grandmother says that her prayers covered me. So I attribute her prayers.
Hey, okay, that's fine. I love it.
It's just funny, like when people say that and she's around, she's like, and I was over here, I was praying for her. She's a woman of faith. So, you know, I always like to throw that in there.
I love it. So, Grandma, you're absolutely right. It was her doing the work and you're praying.
Yes.
I love. My mother would say, "I was worrying for you." That's the Jewish side.
Yeah.
Yes, and while she was doing that, I was worrying, so I got her. Gotta love my mom. So,
oh God, so good.
I always ask people 3 questions. What are you currently passionate about?
I am currently passionate about facilitating other people in their soul work. So,
wow, I just got chills.
I started teaching workshops 4 years ago, and now I teach virtual courses, and I've taught this year almost 2,000 people since January, and it is the most fulfilling thing to have a community where folks are showing up to do their work, and they just need me to nudge them along. Mm-hmm. And I always tell them, I don't have your answers. You do. And because you do, and because you're showing up here, I will do all that I can to support you in leaning deeper into your truth. So that is what I'm passionate about, is building that community and building a collective of people who are opening their eyes, who are waking up, and who are deciding to be who they want to be in their life without shame, guilt, or doubt.
Wow. Okay. Very powerful. I'm like on the verge of emotion this entire time. What is giving you purpose So there's a difference for people who are listening.
What is giving me purpose? What is giving me purpose? I think I link purpose to legacy.
That's great. That's amazing.
And because of that, I feel like it is my life's purpose to create something like these books, like these children, like the love in this house that's going to outlive me.
I love this. I just, before I ask my last question, I just need to say this has been one of the greatest gifts that I've had in a very, very long time, Alex.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
so what are you doing in order to get present right now?
What am I doing in order to get present? So lately, it's been painting.
Ooh.
So I started watercolor abstract painting. Listen, y'all, I am no painter, but it is very fun to like throw colors on the canvas and be like, listen, it's abstract, okay?
I like that. So nobody has to know what it is. To you, it looks like a horse, but to everybody else, it looks something different.
Right. You don't see the mountains back there in the sunset? No, but it's been painting. I've been getting present with painting and having my music on and just vibing out. And it's been gardening. So I have these little earth, they're called earth boxes.
Yes,
I have them on our patio. I love them. And our green peppers are growing and our tomatoes and our basil and our sage, and just we have a bunch of stuff. I'm just literally, I told them I'm a botanist now. So like when I'm outside,
speaking I have a greenhouse in my backyard.
I did not know that.
I love that. 750 square foot greenhouse in my backyard.
Oh my God.
Before I started
dream.
It was a dream. It really was. And a friend of mine, after I left accounting and realized I wanted to get back to basics, a friend of mine was building school gardens. And I was like, well, looking at ADHD and everything going on in society around food and knowing that food heals, I wanted to be a part of that. And I said, let me run your nursery. Always had green thumbs, toes, nose, the whole thing. And they said, we don't have one. I said, not yet. I'll build it. So you have to picture this. One Tuesday, a tractor trailer shows up at my house.
And the greenhouse is getting built.
And my husband comes home. He says, I thought you wanted to build a little hoop thing. I go, yeah, that's what this is. He goes, that's a lot of stuff right there. And he goes, where are you going to put it? We don't have flat land like that. I go, oh, I forgot to mention the bulldozer is coming tomorrow.
Oh my goodness.
And I built a greenhouse, and that's what I was doing. So that was how this all started. So I'm with you. I haven't been able to be, and it's not this really pretty sanctuary. No, it's a greenhous. It is like ugly as sin. Up until last year, it had a chandelier in it, but it's not like it was still pretty. It was just like I considered it bougie that way.
Right.
But that's where I go to get present, is just to watch, like, even when I see something just pop up and then watching it flourish.
It is wild, right? Okay, so a week ago, I planted some round squash seeds. And for some reason, 2 days later, they started to sprout. And now they are abundant a week later. And I'm just like, this
it's incredible.
Is wild. I love it. And I'm not one who normally has a green thumb, but this is proving, that self-doubt I have about myself wrong. Because I have peppers, I have onions, and I am so excited.
And you know what?
So that's how I'm getting present too.
We'll probably eat them because they were part of the process of growing them.
Yep. Isla's always trying to pull my peppers off too early. And I'm like, no, you have to wait.
Oh,
you have to wait.
My gosh, I love it.
But that's how I'm getting present. Great. Painting and gardening.
I love it. Well, I am going to make sure in all the show notes that how you can reach Alex is going to be there. But what is the best way for people to learn a little bit more about you?
Sure. So you can go to alexelle.com learn about me there. There's also free writing practices on the website for you to lean into if you're curious about getting up close and personal with your truth through journaling. And then on Instagram, of course, you can find me at Alex_Elle, ELLE. And
your podcast.
And the books. I always forget about my baby podcast.
How could you forget about that?
I know. I do her so wrong. I'm sorry. And yes, on my podcast, the Hey Girl podcast, where I speak with women about their life's work and their self-care practices, and we share stories, and it's really, really amazing. So, yeah, those are the places.
And your book is coming in October.
October 13th, After the Rain, is out to the world, and please pre-order because it is very important for authors to get pre-orders. So we are shooting for a high number for these pre-orders, and there's an amazing pre-order campaign out that you can learn more about on my website as well.
Amazing. Alex, you are a beautiful soul. You are truly one of those bright light gifts that the world is lucky to have in it. Thank you so much for honestly gracing me with this time that I will forever hold in my heart. So thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for keeping my skin glowy and
you're
supple.
So welcome.
I appreciate you.
I hope this podcast has inspired you to check out more work by Alex Elle. As always, if you like what you hear, leave us a review and give us a thumbs up and subscribe to our podcast. And as always, if you have ideas for future episodes or guests you'd love to hear me interview, please email me at comingclean@indielee.com.